It's like a Sharknado, except with poop.
I'm not happy.
So no doubt Melvin Capital is in a lot of pain.
There will be carnage, I can guarantee you.
They're starting to have to unwind their longs in order to pay for the pain that they are seeing in these other short positions that are getting absolutely crushed.
It is a corrupt system.
A casino-like atmosphere.
But when they all come to get out of that movie theater because somebody yelled fire, that door is only so big.
Now it's almost become this risk that if you're publicly coming out as a hedge fund and disclosing the stocks that you're against as one trader, as one Twitter user put it, you're at risk of getting Melvined.
The reason the market is doing what it's doing is people are sitting at home, getting the checks from the government.
Grandma and the little guy have all banded together into a big group, and they've done this to the stocks.
It's just a way of attacking wealthy people.
The authorities, should they step in?
You know, you have these massive bailouts. You have the Federal Reserve pumping money into failing banks and corporations. And then, I don't know, how many segments did CNBC do to talk about how the market is manipulated by these very companies and banks?
This fair share is a bullshit concept.
Ban social networks to talk about buying short stocks.
There's a number of different ways that the stock market is manipulated or, artificially moved in one direction or another. I generally think that almost all of it is absolute BS.
It is a corrupt system.
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation, hey everybody, welcome to the show. We got a good show for you guys today. It's Monday. Hopefully you all had an excellent and restful weekend. I ended up doing things. Yes, I ended up doing things. You may have checked out the video that I did on Saturday night of old times. But hey, you know what? That's what happens. You just can't find time to relax when there's so much going on. And so on that, let's have some fun. All right, so we got some good stories for y'all today. We're going to talk about, of course, the trouble with Trump's legal team. Fun. We also have, of course, how he's dealing with the Twitter ban. That's also fun. We also are going to talk a little bit about the stimulus bill, and we have Jesse Ventura. Did he just get bread-pilled? What is going on here? All right, anyway. So we've got those stories. We'll dive into it. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. That, of course, helps you out. Helps me out. If you do that, please, again, like and share. Super chats, other things that are welcome. I just want to thank Eclectic Miscellanea today for running a poll and donating to our Patreon. So that was incredibly generous. Thank you so much, Eclectic Miscellanea. You're amazing. All of you are amazing and wonderful. And thank you so much for your support. I couldn't do the show without you. That said, let's dive into it once again. Into the maw of terror. I don't know where I got that from. I have no idea. Anyway, I have no sound effects either. I need to get some of those. All right. Former President Donald Trump has lost his entire legal defense team. they have been, they have summarily quit and have been replaced. So sources tell ABC News that all 5 of the impeachment lawyers who were expected to represent Donald Trump in the upcoming impeachment trial have called it quits. Sad, baby. All right. Now, you might be wondering why. Is it because of Donald Trump's record of stiffing his lawyers, including Rudy Giuliani, who he did not pay $20,000 a day, like he said he was going to, or like was reported, and then also decided to stiff Rudy when it comes to a pardon. So maybe it's got something to do with it, maybe not. A little note on Rudy Giuliani, by the way. Rudy Giuliani would probably right now be representing Donald Trump in the impeachment trial had he not, went and said, let's have trial by combat. Okay, at that little get together during the certification process on January 6th. So just Rudy, I don't know why, but Rudy's ride or die. Or at least he was. I don't know what's going to happen to him now. All right, but anyway. So now officially the team, led by South Carolina Butch Bowers. Remember I talked about him. He was Lindsey Graham's favorite pick. Don't worry, Donna. We're going to hook you up with Butch Bowers, and he's going to take care of you. Okay? That's like my best Lindsey Graham. I don't know why I do impressions now. I'm not supposed to be doing impressions. I'm supposed to be doing the news. Anyway, maybe because he incited the election. You guys, you're not going to let that go, are you? You know what? Just to spite you guys, I'm going to put that on the soundboard and play that. Just because. All right, but anyway, Butch Bowers had resigned. So he was the head guy. He was like, oh, big name, Butch Bowers. And then Butch Bowers is like, Too rich for me, man. I'm not going to do that. Fun. So now why did he quit? Apparently it's in part due to disagreements over how to mount Trump's defense, according to sources. Trump's lawyers had originally planned to argue the constitutionality of holding a trial, given that Donald Trump is no longer in office as former president. Now that's always, that argument kind of irritates me a little bit, okay? Because here's the thing. You're trying to impeach him for a crime, high crimes and misdemeanors, right? That's impeachment. And I know impeachment is generally a tool to remove a sitting president. Well, we removed him one way or the other. The American people removed him. But there's the act of accountability. See, him being out of office didn't make it so that the crime didn't happen. The crime didn't go and get erased once he left office. The crime still happened. He is still responsible. It's sort of like working at a bank. I work at a bank, right? And I decide I'm going to embezzle a bunch of money. And then I'm going to quit the bank. And then when it get, probably because I have all that money, right? Why would I need to work at a bank? But I just stole all that money. But then, when the cops catch up to me being like, what are you talking about? I don't work at the bank anymore. I'm no longer a bank official. So, were you going to come after me for embezzling the cash, for stealing that money? No. Why would you ever do that? It's in the past. You shouldn't come after me for it. But it's crime. It's crime. Crime is crime. And in this case, the crime is inciting insurrection against the United States in order to try to keep himself into power. And so that's the problem here. And just because he failed to stay in power, the insurrection did fail, okay? That doesn't mean that we should ignore the people who incited the attempt. I'm just saying. And look, you've got, I'm guessing you're going to have a long line of people, starting with, QAnon shaman Jacob Chansley, or Jacob, whatever his name is, right? He's the guy with the boots and the fur. Okay, anyway, I'm not going to do that. All right, sorry. There's going to be, starting with him, a long line of people who are going to testify that, oh yeah, it wasn't me, it wasn't my fault. Donald Trump incited me, and I believed him. And so they were incited by the president's words and actions. And so we're going to see how that defense works out. And actually, as I'm going to get to, it probably will work. But they continue. So the strategies, the disagreements over the strategy varied. Sources told ABC News. But Trump wanted his team to argue that there was election fraud. So this is the big disagreement. So like, yeah, we can protect you, constitutionality and all that. And, you know, can't really impeach, in their words, can't impeach a president that's already out of office. So what's he really going to do? It's not really constitutional. It hasn't been done before. And I guess if you're reading like as an originalist, maybe, okay. All right, but Trump's like, no, I want you to argue that there was massive fraud, so much election fraud. Let me tell you, remember guys, the
dumps, big massive dumps.
There's so many dumps, so many ballot dumps, so many. I won the election and I won it big, and you guys need to argue on that, okay? Even though I have absolutely no proof, and I will also get in trouble. You know, if I actually ever brought it to a real judge and tried to make that argument, I would get in trouble for it. Oh, yeah, okay. He's still on that, by the way. I cannot believe this. He cannot believe, he cannot accept that he lost. And I know there's some disagreement here among liberals, among progressives, about how mentally sound Trump is. And maybe there's disagreements on, do you think Donald Trump is really believes this? Or do you think that he's lying, he's grifting and making excuses? I actually generally do believe that he lives in a fantasy world of his own making, of his own design. One where Donald Trump is the undisputed winner of everything. He is the best at everything he tries. And the only way that he could ever lose or fail is not because of himself or anything that he's done. No. Not because he's not good enough or not smart enough or, you know, not a raging dumpster fire of a person. No. It's because everyone is against him because they are jealous or envious of how strong and smart and great he is, that they have all conspired to go and shut him down, even his friends. It really is, I think, clearly in classic narcissistic behavior. That's what it feels like, okay? And here's the kicker about this, right? I mentioned before, he's probably going to get away with it. Yeah, of course he is. He's going to walk away. I have no illusions that the Senate, which is 50-50, right, which needs a 2/3 majority, is going to vote to convict Donald Trump. There's no way. I believe that they're still too afraid of him to actually do anything. They are the party of Trump, and because he has created this cult of personality among the majority and its members. So he's got majority approval within the party. People still love him. 40% of them would like to see him run again in 2024. So what you have here is a real problem inside of the Republican Party. And that said, they say the Republican Party is split, right? In reality, I think the voters have always, you know, been Trump-like. But the establishment is a little different. The establishment doesn't actually represent the average Republican voter. The establishment's only there to funnel money to the rich. Whereas Republican voters actually tend to be a little against some of the policies that tend to give more money to the wealthy, generally. And so it is pretty interesting on that. But there's a small populist strain within the Republican Party. That said, that doesn't mean that I want to ally with that, because what they tend to do is tend to correctly identify some of the problems facing this country and then falsely blame it on immigrants, the gay, woke culture, all that stuff. So I'm not going to ally with that. And they tend to support white supremacy and you know, and really like disgusting behavior. But anyway, you have a real problem, right? And so the establishment has used these dog whistles, and they've courted homophobic, transphobic, racist conspiracy theorists for a very, very long time. And now the only difference is that Donald Trump was really out in the open with it. And that's why they love him. Because to them, he had the courage to say what they've all been thinking this entire time. When in reality, again, Donald Trump, he has no core ideology other than me. How's that going to help me? And so he saw a group of people that were more than ready to be conned at a time where distrust in the governmental institutions and the establishment are, is at a record high. Nobody trusts that anymore. And they were willing to give him a shot or allow him to do what he was doing. And basically, he told these people exactly what they wanted to hear and successfully, of course, pointed out real problems within the establishment in order to get into power. And then once he was in power, use the establishment to personally profit. And that's it. That's what con men do. And he is a con man. And most of his followers, unfortunately, have not fully caught on. And of course, that, what this has to do with the lack of a conviction and impeachment is that those politicians are afraid of those followers. They're afraid of those voters who make up a large majority of the Republican voting base. Donald Trump has them, and he's not letting them go anytime soon. Okay, so it's going to remain the party of Trump for some time. And as a result, you're not going to see Donald Trump held to any sort of account by those same Republicans. You've got a few right now, like 10 Republicans, Suzanne Collins, Mitt Romney, some of those Republicans, Liz Cheney, of all people, we'll get to her next. But again, when it comes to the majority of Republicans, Mitch McConnell, surprisingly, but I think the majority of Republicans are still too afraid to vote against him because they're not in these safe areas like Mitch McConnell in Kentucky. So, and that's what's really messed up. Okay, he's not going to be held accountable for any of this, I don't think. And what that's going to do is that it's going to set a precedent in the party that you can, as a Republican, do whatever you want as president, break any law, doesn't matter. We're still going to back you because, well, hey, you're not the Democrat. All right. Losing his tenure. Well, that wouldn't be the first time we've seen that happen. I'm just saying. All right. Moving on here. More stories. Yeah, you've heard of Herman Cain, right? Herman Cain's Twitter account tweeting from beyond the grave. Well, this is beyond the Twitter grave. And then there's Manchin. I'll mention Manchin. Don't you worry about that. I got it. Let me see. Although Twitter is a slightly quieter place without the former president, his influence is still there, even in some cases directly. Now, I'm, of course, talking about former President Donald Trump. So this is according to a new report out in the Daily Beast. Trump has written out insults and observations, several of them about Liz Cheney. However, with no ability to tweet them out himself, he has resorted to suggesting put-downs for others to use to post to their own Twitter, according to a person with direct knowledge of this new habit. So, yeah, without Twitter, Donald Trump is watching cable news and raging to himself at Mar-a-Lago, and he's got no outlet. He's like, I really want to tweet something. I'm pretty sure he's attempted to create several alts or sock puppets, and like at not actually Donald Trump, and they still are probably banning him. And so, what is a guy to do? Well, apparently, you go and talk to other people. You call up other people, your friends. You're like, I got this. Guess what? I got this real epic ode. I don't know if he talks like that. A great epic ode on Liz Cheney. I want you to tell her how dumb she is, and that'll be great. And it'll get 1 million retweets. Let me tell you. Yeah, he wants to tweet so hard. He does, though. He really does. Now, on Liz Cheney, he has recently complained that she is, quote, totally phony for backing him on foreign policy and other matters, but then also speaking out against him after he helped incite the deadly January 6th insurrection at the U.S. Capitol, for which House Democrats impeached him at an unprecedented second time before he left office. So let me just tell you, I kind of hate this story for one reason and one reason alone, really. It makes Liz Cheney look reasonable. What kind of world are we in when Liz Cheney, a Cheney, is reasonable? It is not a world that I want to live in. And yet, we are here. Okay? And she is, again, she is certainly horrible. Her family, Dick Cheney, has caused incredible death and suffering and destruction in the Middle East. So that's the legacy of that family, and she defends that, and she supports that kind of legacy. So again, terrible, terrible person. And yet she is somehow now considered to be the voice of reason in the Republican Party. How low can we go in this country? This is, let me tell you, this is literally the worst game of limbo I have ever seen, okay? And with each Republican administration, that bar continues to go lower. We are underground at this point. You can't go any lower, except they're going to find a way to go even lower. So, all right, what else does he say? Trump. The former president has told the GOP allies that he can't let Cheney, quote, get away with her support for impeachment, of course. And Republicans are more angry about her statement, which was frequently quoted by Democrats during deliberations, although she ultimately never spoke, than her vote to impeach. They are madder at the optics of what she said and the fact that Democrats are quoting her than actually voting to impeach, which wouldn't have gone anywhere, right? So big mad over on the Republican side. That kind of really shows a lot about the party and really where it's at. Democrats, by the way, Democrats love to vote to quote Republicans. Okay, they love to quote them. You got Democrats out there quoting Ronald freaking Reagan. Still, I mean, it's insane. Ronald Reagan, seeing that happen is almost enough to make me physically ill because of how much damage Ronald Reagan and his legacy has done to this country, busting unions, all that stuff. Okay, crushing labor, the things that the South American death squads, all that stuff. And yet you got Democrats that will bring up and quote Ronald Reagan. It's ridiculous. Okay, ridiculous. But Republicans hate it when Democrats go and quote one of them when it helps Democrats. Okay, they'd never quote a Democrat unless it's, of course, to attack Democrats. All right, but here's the problem for them. One of the biggest rules among Republicans, at least before Donald Trump, was never attack your fellow Republicans. Only attack Democrats, right? Only go up to Democrats. Never do the friendly fire. Well, again, that changed under Donald Trump, obviously, because Donald Trump's not an ideological Republican. He is a, sort of populist in the way that he uses populist rhetoric in order to do bad things, right? Things that will ultimately help him personally and politically, and not actually help the people that he swears to try to represent. Okay, so no, there's a lot of Republicans that do similar things, right? Not to the extent of Donald Trump, but you do see some populist rhetoric here and there coming from Republicans who are ultimately, establishment. For example, how they like to support the working class, right? Oh, I support the working class, I support the taxpayer, and that's why we should immediately cut funding to all food assistance. Wait, how's that helping the working person? How's that helping the taxpayer? When there's many working people that end up having to rely on food stamps because wages are so low. And so, but here's the thing, Republicans, when they say that, they're not actually talking about you. They're talking about the CEOs because they pay taxes, the rich, the donors. They don't actually represent working class people. And you can see that from the policies that they push. Okay, but anyway. So now, one Republican congressional aide, off the record, says this, quote, "You're given resources to protect members, and you did the opposite." And that's to Liz Cheney, okay? So understand that they are protecting Donald Trump. Trump is not fringe. I mean, he's not fringe in the Republican Party, okay? Trumpism is not a fringe position among the right wing. Anti-Trumpism is. So understand that, right? When Trump says, and this is one of his criticisms of her, she's got no friends, Liz Cheney, what a loser, she's got no friends, how sad. Well, he's actually right. Liz Cheney is kind of an awful person, as I said before. So obviously nobody on the left is going to like her, okay? And I really hope the libs don't rehabilitate her, because that would irritate me. And now she's pissing off Trump, despite it actually agreeing a lot on his policy positions. Again, policy, though, isn't enough for him. Well, there's got to be loyalty. Without loyalty, I mean, what are we going to do, right? No, we've got to be completely loyal to Donald Trump if you want to be in the Republican Party. So one more interesting quote here from the story. This is House Republican aide who said this, quote, "I don't think any outside observers are going to taking us seriously as a governing party moving forward. We're going to have a conversation about Marjorie Taylor Greene and then vote to remove the top female leader of our party?" And so now that's interesting. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, a lot of stuff has been coming out about her recently, okay? How she's been, pushing like weird anti-Semitic conspiracy theories about like lasers controlled by like Jewish people burning down forests. I mean, it's crazy, crazy stuff, right? And there's also videos of her harassing, mass shooting victims and on and on. But she is not, a good person. She believes in all sorts of weird conspiracy theories, and yet she is a member of Congress. Wow. And yet she's getting a pass in the party because she's a Trumpist, where Cheney, of course, is your old school, garden variety, hideous, ghoulish neocon. But that said, MTG is not better, okay? Or Donald Trump is not better. They're also ghoulish. Donald Trump used the drone program far more aggressively than Obama did, okay? And Bush. We still had people, troops in Syria. They were protecting oil fields while our Kurdish allies were being slaughtered. And we did nothing. Look, there was also the attempts to try to support the coup in Venezuela and to try to support that coup attempt in Venezuela. So Donald Trump's foreign policy was also like spearheaded by the same kind of neocon ghouls that aligned with Liz Cheney, Mike Pompeo, John Bolton. Even though John Bolton was like speaking out against the Trump administration, and Mike Pompeo was all the way until the end, those two still align with, Liz Cheney when the Cheneys when it comes to foreign policy. And so understand that they are all massively ghoulish people. So anyway, that staffer ultimately is right. And did you notice that he couldn't come out and say it publicly? And why? It's because he wouldn't have a job anymore. He would get destroyed politically because it's Donald Trump's party. It is now, and it always will be. Whether you like it or not, as a Republican, he is a major integral part now of the conservative movement, and we're going to be dealing with both him and his legacy and his effects on the party for a long time to come. The fever's not going to break, guys. And this is a really important message for the Democrats. The fever is not going to break. They are not going to suddenly revert. Even though there are some in the Republican Party that are desperately trying to say, oh, no, Trump, anomaly, he's not us, we're not that guy. No, he's a one-off. We're not at all like this guy. Unity. They're only saying unity because they don't want to be held responsible for the mess, the monster that they created in Trump. And of course, the monster that has always been their electorate. All right. Fringe is mainstream. True. All right. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to come back. We've got stimulus. We'll talk about that. And then Jesse Ventura gets bread-pilled. Fascinating. So stay right here. We're going to read some super chats and stuff if we have any after this break as well. So stay right here. It'll be a quick minute around the nation.
Don't you want to please me?
I will eat your ass.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here. Waldorf Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the music in the breaks. Helps out. Yeah, we're just classing it up in this joint here. So all right, anyway. Let's read some super chats. All right, we got two of them. We got Adrian Benefield says, it's not Trump that they're afraid of, it's his followers. They do violence instead of encouraging it. I know it's a slight difference, but it matters. No, it's totally true. I mean, that's kind of, I felt like that was the overall point that I was trying to make. So, yeah, but generally, like I said, I agree. Virginia Thomas, otherwise known as the Ice Dragon, says, better leave Liz alone before her daddy does you know what to them in the face. Oh, you know what? For a minute, I forgot about that. That is true / devastating. Very devastating. All right, so, no, thank you for those super chats. Obviously, they go to help the show. Thank you. Much appreciated for that. Also, I really appreciate the 2 Tier 1 gift subs from John's Venn diagram of desire. So thank you very much for those gift subs. Anybody who gave a gift, who received a gift sub today from John's Venn diagram of desire, please give him or her a thank you. So I'm not sure which. So I apologize for that. It's not very clear with that name. Nonetheless, give them a thank you. That said, let's move on. Did Anna say that? Yes, she did. She did say that. Very much so. All right. Her. You know what? It was better. Like, it's and I messed up there. Generally, I try to go with like the gender neutral term if I'm not sure, but for some reason my brain short circuited on that, and so I apologize there. But generally, when I don't know, how they present, it's they them, and I messed up on that. So apologize, but nonetheless, her is a desired pronoun. I will file that away and remember this. But thank you again for those gift subs, and anybody who's received a gift sub from her, give her a warm thank you. All right. Moving in. Let's do it. Then is, yeah, then, yeah, it really is. It really is. It's a mouthful. It's a mouthful. And I did not get a lot of sleep last night. Up very early. Hard at work. Okay. Anyway. Republicans have introduced their counteroffer to President Joe Biden's $1.9 trillion stimulus proposal, even as some Republicans actually say they should go a little bigger. So that's interesting. So let me give you some details here. This is Joe Biden's plan, for one. It calls for direct payments of $1,400 to many Americans. So now, I've told you before, this is kind of a bait and switch. Don't get me wrong. I think $1,400 is something. It's really all you can say about it. It's something, and it will help many people. But I think the Georgia campaign, and by the way, there's a story where on a call, Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff were not happy about this because on the campaign trail, they said, vote for us. You get us in the Senate, we are going to give you $2,000 checks. All right, we're going to give you $2,000 checks. And then Biden's like, $1,400 plus the $600 Trump gave you. That's us giving you $2,000, except that it's not us giving you $2,000. It's us giving you $1,400. And so a little bit of a bait and switch, okay? Again, that narrative is kind of ridiculous. $1,400 is added to the $600 is $2,000 technically, but it's not Biden giving you. It's Trump that gave you the $600 when actually he was himself pushing for $2,000. And so that tricky math does not really, it's tricky math. Okay, it's ridiculous. But anyway, Democrats, right? But there are other good things in the plan, though. Okay, increasing the federal per week unemployment benefit to $400. It used to be $600. It not in this plan, but it should be back up to $600. I don't see any reason why it shouldn't, be up to $600, but at least they've extended it to September. That still will help a lot of people. The big one actually is increasing the minimum wage to $15 an hour. That's a significant win. Look, I know the minimum wage should be like $22, $23. I totally agree with that. If it kept up with inflation, it'd be more. But here's the thing, right? I'll take the win for minimum wage workers. It will help millions of people. And there's no reason that we can't raise it again in a few years. Again, this is a doubling. This is a doubling of the minimum wage. Good. It's good stuff. Could we do better? Obviously, but it's good. I'll take the win. Take the W. All right. Not only that, but it extends the eviction and foreclosure moratoriums until the end of September. Gives $350 billion in state and local government aid. That's good. $170 billion for K through 12 schools and institutions of higher education, $50 billion towards COVID-19 testing. That's good. $20 billion towards a national vaccine program in partnership with states, localities, and tribes. Makes the tax credit fully refundable for the year and increased the credit to about $3,000 a child or $3,600 for a child under age 6. That's also significant. All those things, they're good things. They're necessary things. I think they're aiming a bit low. I think, and it's not just me, but economists have said we actually need something that's far bigger, a stimulating package, a stimulus package, because this ain't that stimulating. It's far under what we actually need to get the economy rolling again. We should have, for example, $2,000 a month checks retroactive to the beginning of the pandemic. This is something that I've been arguing for the entire time, even under the Trump administration. We should maybe even take a look at what our Canadian neighbors are doing up north. They have something called the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, CERB, and basically it gives $2,000 a month of financial support to people who are employed and self-employed Canadians who are directly affected by COVID-19. That's a better program than what we have here. In fact, a lot of governments have actually done far more for people suffering the pandemic than the United States have. So even though I said, hey, we'll take the W, understand that comparative to the rest of the world, that actually has far limited resources compared to compared to the United States, are far more generous. And so understand that. But that's Biden's plan. All right. So now Republicans have put their own plan out. Okay. So now a new proposal from a group of 10 GOP lawmakers calls for a much skimpier version of this bill. It calls for $1,000 checks per person for individuals earning up to $40,000 a year, who would be eligible for the full payments. Those with incomes at the threshold and above would see payments gradually phase out, and eligibility would be capped at $50,000 in annual pay. So it's much, much more targeted, which means heavily means tested. So there you go. For married couples who file jointly, the payments would begin phasing out at $80,000 in income and be capped at $100,000. Children and adults who qualify as dependents would only be eligible for $500 as opposed to the $3,000 credit under the Biden plan. Convicted inmates would not be eligible. Prisoners right now are eligible to receive the $600 checks. The checks in total would be estimated $220 billion for the Republican plan. Meanwhile, the total package, including funding for vaccines, childcare, enhanced unemployment, and nutrition benefits would cost about $618 billion. So that is really, really skinny. It's another very, very skinny bill. It's skinnier than what the Republicans were offering previously. It's more like anorexic. It needs help. It's on life support. It's not doing very well. And so that has at least one Republican saying, really? That's it? In fact, this is interesting. West Virginia is an interesting state. Okay, because here you have West Virginia Governor Jim Justice railing against a Republican plan and saying that we need to go big. Take a look.
Really and truly, Poppy, what we need to do is we need to understand that trying to be, per se, fiscally responsible at this point in time with what we've got going on in this country, if we actually throw away some money right now, so what? We have really got to move and get people taken care of.
All right, so Governor Jim Justice, everybody. So let me take issue, umbrage, because that's what I do. I pick things apart. The framing here is ridiculous. When he said waste, I don't care if we waste the money. Okay, but it's not a waste. Helping people, giving money to struggling Americans, never a waste. Okay, totally awful, terrible wording. Okay, now if you're talking about waste, well, then you're probably thinking about wealthy corporations and billionaires. That's a lot of waste. Now, that said, when it comes to relief, you guys know that I believe in a universal approach, okay? I believe that we should give $2,000 stimulus checks to everybody. I don't care if you're rich. I don't care if you made $1 million, right? Give you a stimulus check. I don't give a crap. There's a couple of reasons for that. For one, it gets it out fast. People need relief right now. Rent's due. Okay, rent is literally due today. And as far as I know, according to the studies, there's about $70 billion. Americans are about $70 billion in the hole when it comes to rent. So they need help, they need relief, and they need relief now. If you just issue the checks without this means testing and super targeting and pinpoint, you know, accuracy, like you're sending a guided missile, which that's totally American, by the way. Could you imagine them stuffing a missile full of $2,000? I'm sorry, $1,400, and just firing it at a poor neighborhood? That is America right there. America. Here's your targeted aid, poor people. You know they would do it if they could. But that's what they do. Okay, that's what they do with the super targeting and stuff. No, blanket it. Just make it rain all over everybody. And what you do, but you might think, hey, look, I understand that it gets it out faster and people need help, but you're giving rich people money they don't need. What are you talking about? You hate that. You hate giving rich people money, don't you? Yes, I do. But here's the brilliant thing about that plan, okay? If you give somebody who doesn't need it the money, later on you can go back and you can tax them for it. You can just increase taxes. Or do like a clawback. That's all you have to do. Clawback later when we're not in an emergency. That's the power that you're able to do in the government. Okay? If they're wealthy and they get a stimulus check, who cares? Just tax them. That's what you can do, but they hate that, right? Or maybe if you're wealthy and you get like a $2,000 stimulus check or whatever, and you decide, well, I don't need this. I'm going to give this to charity. Why not just give them a tax deduction? I don't know. You can figure something out, okay? You're smart people. It's supposed to be smart people, all right? Yes, they got to repay it in taxes. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. But look, overall, Jim Justice is correct. He is right in the fact that we should absolutely go big, generally. And he knows this, right? Especially in places like West Virginia. As I said before, West Virginia is an interesting place. West Virginia, I've read some of the history of, coal miner strikes in West Virginia, in labor power. And it's really sad that they don't have that kind of labor power now, because it's necessary. It is 100% needed to have that kind of, just labor, these unions and getting together and being able to fight, sometimes physically, for wages and benefits and things like that. And so it has a fascinating pro-labor history, and yet has been turned into, a Republican stronghold with people like Jim Justice and Joe Manchin. It's crazy. But also, it does show you how somebody like a progressive, a grassroots progressive, could potentially make inroads there as well. So, anyway, families in West Virginia are struggling. And so Jim Justice knows this. Jim Justice, by the way, used to be a Democrat. He switched over to the Republican Party to suck up to Donald Trump, and because he likes coal. And so, but nonetheless, he knows this. He knows that yes, he's not ideologically bound against doing stimulative measures, unlike people like Mitch McConnell. So that is interesting. And speaking of Joe Manchin, by the way, this puts pressure on him to go and pass through budget reconciliation Joe Biden's package. And so there's that. Now the other thing, speaking of Biden, right? So why haven't the stimulus checks gone out? I mean, immediately, Biden's like, we're going to help you. We're going to get those $2,000 checks out the door. I mean, $1,400 checks out the door. But we're going to do it as soon as possible, man. We're going to do it soon. Well, now we're not hearing. I'm sorry. I'm reading, and and I'm seeing from different sources that we're not going to have it till like March or April. So it's not right out the door, and it's not $2,000. So what's going on? It's because Biden is focusing on trying to build a bipartisan bill. And that's what this is. This is what's happening, okay? It is really bad here. Justice ran as a Dem in 2016 and went Republican after being elected. Yes, I remember doing that story. I do remember doing that story. And it's exactly what he did. And again, right, Biden keeps wanting to set up a bipartisan package with the Republicans, which of course you're not going to be able to do, right, unless you really compromise, and that's what we're afraid of, compromise the effectiveness of the bill, of the stimulus package. Now remember, I've already said, and experts have said, economists, this is not enough. $1.9 trillion is not enough aid. It is too targeted. What we need is a broader, more expensive stimulus measure. This is $1.9 trillion. Not enough to jumpstart an economy that has been affected so much by COVID-19. And yet he's saying, well, you know, I want to compromise Republicans. Why? You have Bernie Sanders, who is the budget committee chairman. He is ready. The Democrats are ready to go and pass a budget reconciliation bill that immediately gets these checks out the door and gets aid to the American people. Why would you waste your time dicking around with Republicans who don't want to pass anything, who have a vested interest in you and your administration failing? I know he ran as the guy that like unity and building bridges. You can't build bridges with these people, okay? And so, I mean, I don't agree with his approach. I mean, there are a few, by the way, Republicans that are not calling for tiny checks. Again, that's Jim Justice there, and then some who are, you know, ideologically linked with Donald Trump, who Donald Trump called for $2,000 checks. And the reason is because it's a political winner. Over 80% of the country is in favor of direct checks. It's popular. And yet Republicans, they want to nickel and dime you even further than it already has been. And I'm going to keep saying, don't do it. Budget reconciliation, let's do it. We need to have something bigger to really match the scope of the crisis. But until we can do that, budget reconciliation, do it, and do it now. Bernie's ready to roll. We're all ready to roll. Let's do it because people can't wait. That's all I'm saying. Current chairman, Senate Budget Committee. Yes, I know what you're talking. I get that reference. If they pass the GOP version general strike, I wish we had the union labor power in this country to be able to make an effective general strike. We need to really build that at the grassroots level. And I'm not sure how to do it, to be honest with you. All right, moving on. Former Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura is having some second thoughts about capitalism.
There shouldn't be one billionaire. There should not be one person worth $1 billion. And I know that's shocking hearing it come from me, but the older I get, the more flaws I see in capitalism and the more good things sometimes I see in more socialism.
Whoa, based. He's right. I did not expect that. Holy crap. Based. All right, so before people's heads explode, by the way, socialism, by definition, is just the democratization of the workplace. You as a worker own a piece of the company that you work for and can make decisions alongside your fellow workers. That's it. And actually, it's not just fellow workers, it's worker owners. All right. Unlike in capitalism, where you do not own a piece of your workplace and make none of the decisions, all the decisions are made for you by a very elite top group of people at the very top of the company that may or may not know what they're doing and may or may not end up driving the company into bankruptcy, to which you end up losing your jobs, and they end up, of course, falling with a golden parachute. The capital owners. So workers are not owners in this system. And so the wealth generated by the company ends up going to that very small few instead of being evenly distributed among the other worker owners. So now, it's a simple concept, okay? And if done right, that ensures that no one person makes a fortune off extracting the fruit of another person's labor, right? Which is what we have right now, by the way. You have these people like Jeff Bezos. You don't get to be a billionaire or a multi-billionaire without extracting labor from someone else, extracting value from someone else. It just doesn't happen. So now, only in a capitalist system do we have so many billionaires while regular people go broke. Okay? So now, to further illustrate the point, Ventura is going to make another comparison. Take a look.
What can one do to earn $1 billion? I had at one time what I considered the toughest job I've ever did in my life. I was right out of high school. I had a job with the Minnesota State Highway Department bridge crew, and my job was running the 90-pound jackhammer. That is the hardest job on the planet. You find me one that's physically or mentally tougher, and I was barely making above minimum wage. And you're telling me that these billionaires who are now doubling their money, doubling their wealth, that they work harder physically than someone spending 8 to 10 hours a day on a jackhammer? Bull crap. They earn their money by pushing pencils, and they don't even need to use deodorant because none of them ever sweat, I doubt it, at work. There should not be a billionaire, and I'm going on record to state this. If you can't live on $12 million a year, $1 million a month, maybe we should bring back capital punishment. Well, they already have, haven't they?
Wow. He's going full like guillotine, like, okay, let's have a maximum wage. If you can't live on $1 million a month, guillotine. He is like a step away from saying eat the rich. Damn. So again, his point here is fairly simplistic, but generally is pretty true. People who work their asses off, retail workers, people who do physical labor, factory workers, road workers, they do get paid crap wages for pretty hard work. Now, it used to be a lot of these workers ended up having labor unions to make sure that they had a fair wage. Some of them still do. But labor power in this country has been incredibly diminished since Reagan. And so not only that, but as a result, of course, the diminished power of labor unions, you have minimum wage that back in Ventura's time was actually worth more than it is today. So when you think about it, the financial reality now is even more devastating than it was before. And he understands it. He gets it, okay? He's right in the fact that the harder you work or seem to have to work at your job, the less you end up getting paid. And again, the more difficult to work, the less it pays. Fast food, again, very dirty, very hot, greasy environment. You deal with terrible customers. It's constantly super fast paced. That's difficult work. Direct care workers, they do some of the most difficult work imaginable. You take care of people that need round-the-clock care. You feed them, change them, lift them, bathe them, give them medication, which sometimes, could be life and death. Dealing with, things like stomach tubes and it's just all this stuff. And people don't understand how hard it is, how difficult it is to take care of a human being who cannot take care of themselves, who cannot do anything for themselves. And it's not just one person, by the way. It's multiple people per staffer, per household, and they make maybe $10 to $12 an hour, if they're lucky. Not even a living wage. It's nowhere near. My wife used to work in that work, and she's like, we should be making $30 an hour at least. This is difficult, hard, back-breaking labor. And it's true. And you also have people that are in non-physical jobs that are also demanding as hell. Teachers is a good example of that. They often work incredibly hard and end up paying out of pocket for student supplies. They don't get good wages. And there's a lot of great examples. But this is all while the wealthiest Americans in this country have ended up getting so much wealthier. And that was generally his point. And so let me get to some details on that, by the way. Last week, a report published by Oxfam found the world's 10 richest men have seen their fortunes increase by a combined $500 billion since the COVID outbreak has begun. The wealth of billionaires worldwide increased by a combined $3.9 trillion between March 18th and December 31st of last year. Meanwhile, according to Washington, D.C. Based think tank Institute for Policy Studies, the richest 660 people have actually pocketed a windfall of wealth, combined $1.1 trillion since the pandemic began. The Billionaire Bonanza, according to the Billionaire Bonanza 2020 report, which was published again last week, found that since the World Health Organization classified the coronavirus outbreak as a pandemic in March 2020, the combined wealth of America's 660 billionaires has actually went up by 39%, and the number of billionaires increased by 46. Now, Chuck Collins, the director of the IPS report, said, quote, billionaires are reaping unseemly windfalls of wealth during the pandemic. They benefit from having their competitors shut down or controlling technologies and services we are all dependent on in this unprecedented time. We should tax these windfall gains to pay for recovery. So, I mean, look, we don't necessarily have to tax them. I think we should. But generally the point is money printer go burr. Yeah, we should tax them though. But generally Ventura is not, he's not wrong about this issue. And it is interesting to see him because he's always been, to me, he seems like a libertarian type of person. Now he seems to be going to like libertarian socialist or anarchy kind of thing, and it really is interesting to see that this man is just is being bread pilled. So it is really interesting to watch. And hopefully, maybe he can red pill some of his supporters. Wouldn't that be fun to see? All right. That's it. That's all I got for y'all. So that's all the time I have for you. So thank you all for going around the nation today. Please like and share the stream if you enjoyed the show. Subscribe if you're new, if you haven't seen this before. Or of course, follow us on Twitch, or become a subscriber on Twitch. That helps us out greatly as well. In fact, got quite a few new follows. Thank you for doing that. Hey, thank you all. Love you, and remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you all later on Twitch. We're going to raid into the serfs. They're incredibly based. So I would urge you, if you're on YouTube or elsewhere, go to twitch.com, the serfs TV, and check them out as well. We're going to raid in to their channel. Again, give them a watch. Lance is good. It's good people. Love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
I have not loved this conversation. Amazing.
Masturbate all day long.
I love my meat. I like my meat tight. Oh, wow, I'm sorry. Please clap. You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.